What is going on, everybody? Got a little excitement here today. I'm gonna cover this for a bit, maybe like next 45 minutes. Just kind of hanging out with everybody, maybe taking some questions. Just kind of shooting from the hip a little bit, see how everybody's doing. Okay. Let's let everybody kind of come in here for a minute. We'll get started. What's going on, Roy? Just testing out, make sure these sound good. All right. Sound is 10-4. Sweet. All right. Glad you're finally going live on the. Yeah, me too. It's honestly a lot easier to go live on YouTube and the other kind of more larger. Sorry, I had to mute myself on another screen. The larger platforms here. I would have the camera on, but studio is a little bit of a mess right now. But yeah, so and I was just kind of to be able to do it and stream to TikTok as well is kind of the key, because doing all of them at the same time can be a little hassle. But either way, here we are. And like I said, probably going to just kind of kick it for maybe the next 45 minutes here. Just kind of go over, take a look at everything. Crusader and I are going to jump on a live stream at 2:30 for anybody that's interested in joining that. And we'll just kind of fire it up, man. Roy's not a fan of TikTok. Yeah, there's a lot of people that aren't a fan. Unfortunately, that's just where I've managed to build the largest audience of my following there. So usually it's at least worth putting something, some time out there for others to view. But yeah, I'll be definitely taking a bigger approach for YouTube this year. Japa, what's going on? All right. All right, let's just jump on in. So there's, obviously I'm used to the TikTok world where can't really rewind it, but you can on here. So anybody that's joining in, I guess, can kind of just, zoom back a bit if they miss anything. But Bitcoin has come down into a pretty decent little level, really an area here, down at the $93,700 region. This is on the 4-hour time frame. We pretty much just kind of so far wicked down there. This candle closes in about an hour, and looking at just the other time frames here, zooming in, we got a really nice reaction so far off of this daily level right down here in this region. So kind of just need to see how things kind of close out for the day to see if, we're going to get any kind of a reversal back to the upside from here. I do want to point out just a couple of key reasons, or a couple regions. And for me, we are basically at support, right? Granted, I'm a big fan of coming down and taking the lows, and generally that's what Bitcoin tends to do really, really nicely. Turn that down a little bit. And, we kind of seen that over and over again. We had this wick, essentially took out the lows down here, and then you came up and you take the highs, and then vice versa, right? You took out the lows again over here. And then we've just kind of pushed up to these regions, taking out these highs. Nothing really, overly crazy, though, honestly. This push back up was a couple of things. All right. So from the current all-time high, that $108,000, if you were to pull a Fibonacci retracement, and I've just got the gold pocket on here, highlighted. But if you were to do that without changing any settings, you'll have a ton of areas here, right? So you can just kick on the settings right here, just for a little teaching moment. Let's see, fib main. So this is what it'll kind of look like. Some have, all the background colors and everything like that on. Some will have the price numbers and everything on the left. I don't really like that because it gets really jumbly over here. But anyways, I just kick on, and you can just come through and click on and off whatever you like right here. I just go to the gold pocket, and there we go. Right. So, hindsight at this moment, that would have just been a perfect, little area to see this, pretty much retract from. The other thing about this area when we came up to it was that if we were looking at this in the sense of range data, right, we have, now that it's January, we have a new month to look back on for December. And essentially we had rotated the range, meaning that when we broke back into this, we broke in from the bottom. So generally rotate to the upside, and then you can rotate it back down, right? So the word rotation just kind of refers to that type of movement in the price action. So the gold pocket, which once again, natural retracement area, was sitting right there, right at the range high here. And then, as we were looking at this, for me, I was targeting or I still do target higher areas up here, and seeing if we're going to claim this region and continue on from there or not. And just locally, you started having a couple of signs where we were probably going to get a nice little move to the downside. And we had a couple of things to be, highly aware of, right? We started off the week where we, had a couple of weekly targets. And what I mean by that is, with statistically speaking, right? So every week, every month, every quarter, you get, some new high time frame, or just averages in general. And some like to look at it, like a 50-day moving averages and 200-day moving averages, things of that nature, right? But those are dynamic and they're constantly changing. You can also view certain time framed averages, like the average of today, the average of yesterday, the average of last week, last month, last quarter, last 6 months, last year, and so on. And then once that time frame is complete, that session is closed, that average will be set, right? And essentially those averages get returned to in the following session. So example, today we have a new daily average, which is called the daily pivot. And that is the average of yesterday. And it's very likely we meet that average in the next session. So if I'm looking at the daily average from yesterday, likely we hit it today. And when I say likely, it's, some odd 70 to 80%, depending on the time frame. The higher time frames are a lot more like probable, I guess you'd say, right? So what I bring that up for is these down here, right? So it's just something to really be like highly aware of. The one that I'm really focused on, or will focus on, I guess, is that one right there, which is basically, sitting on top of this one here. But this is the average of price for last quarter, and it's likely, so it's not guaranteed, but it's likely that we do meet that this quarter. Now, the quarter is a long time, right? That's 90 days. And we can very well, see other prices before we get to that area. But that's just something to just highly be aware of. And I bring it up for like, if you're somebody who's a fan, and I think you should be, of, buying on red days, and I mean some deep red days where, altcoins see like 20 and 30% drops, Bitcoin drops 15, 20%. Those are the days where when we reach those levels, especially when they're this far away, which, for example, this was, from high to low. If we were to just continue on from here, that'd be a 15% drop. Those are the areas where, if you're looking to be a DCA buyer on, any new project or whatever you're looking for, essentially, those would be areas where maybe that's not the bottom by any means, but it'd just be a better area to look to. And then you kind of have a basis, or at least I do, that we will come down to that in the next 90 days. And that's where I'll be looking for my next round of entries, right? If I was looking for any more entries. For now, it's just pretty range bound activity. Like I said, we had the December range to kind of look to. And then as far as when we began this week, we had some new weekly data as well. All right. So let's kind of just walk back how we got to the current price action on Bitcoin. And we'll take a look at the altcoins too here. I know I'm not trying to make it the Bitcoin show, but obviously Bitcoin's in the driver's seat when it comes to the market. Crusader says, bye, baby. Perdido in crypto. Hello, my friend. I don't know why I got an accent when saying that, but I hope that that's the way I should say it. All right. Got some weak views over here on TikTok, I'm sure, because of the screen orientation. If you guys don't mind giving a couple likes over there. Otherwise, see YouTube and Twitter look to be holding it down on the viewership. So glad to be here with you all today. What I was going to cover here on Bitcoin is that at the beginning of the week, you know, in the Discord specifically, every Sunday night, 7 p.m. generally, a little bit after, I try to update everybody for the upcoming week. Same thing generally on the days. But we started off the week. Let's just kind of cut this up. Right, we were basically right here. All right, and this was Monday, I suppose, right? So Sunday had closed. We just kind of came up and we, had a new high for the week, and we had just claimed this region. Now, one of two things I look for normally is a sweep of the high, right? You come up and you like sweep that previous week high. You stop out everybody that gotten into positions a couple days ago, or potentially even for the whole week. And I'm talking about shorts in this, sense. But you'd have to come back and close back below to really trigger that, right? You can get aggressive, I guess, and try to buy it up here when you're pushing it up. But really, it'd be get a couple of these scribbles down. But really, we'd look for something along the lines of, push up, you come back down, you close back below this level. Now you can enter a short if you like, stop loss above the high, that whole deal. And then we would target a couple things. And, once again, you got a quarterly target down below us that is likely we get met this quarter. You got the same deal for the week, right? So we had this weekly level right here. This was the average of last week. Very likely that we hit it this week, right? So some odds 70 to 80%. You also have a volume target left over from last week now, which was the point of control, right? That basically highest area of volume from last week. We closed out that week, likely that we come down and we back test it and continue onward, right? Now it's not necessarily just so simple to just come down, back test that and get a reversal, but I point that out because when I was bringing up the quarterly average down here, I mentioned that even though we may see that this quarter, you still could see new highs first or higher levels first before you come down. And this is a really good example because while this is an area that, I'm aware of for the next 90 days, this was a level that, you had to be, you had to know and accept that we were likely to revisit that at some point. For me, I did, anticipate us pushing up a little higher at the time, I'll be honest. But this was a really good example because now what did we see, right? We pushed up. We started off the week. You claimed the weekly high. We pushed up into this gold pocket and we got the rejection from there. And then boom, got your weekly target met. That's weekly target 1. This is weekly target number 2. All right. And then overall, you really can anticipate rotating this range as long as we're A, within it, and then B, under the previous week high. So that's just something that, and when you're starting to build your strategy at the moment, or, just kind of understanding how things can work, that's just something we have to, anticipate. Now, we don't have to rotate this range by any means. It is interesting that the previous week low is once again just down there. And we've seen, these moves time and time again, where you come down, you take the low and you move it back, right? So you get those liquidity sweeps. But this was a really nice little move here. Like I said, you claimed the high, got to the gold pocket. We had a, once again, I'm looking at weekly timeframes, monthly timeframes. And as you break things down on a more local level here, if you look at the Monday range, which it's not always so, cut and dry, but this was just a perfect setup, right? You closed Monday right at the highs. We swept it right there. And you can see even on a 30-minute candle, this is so short time frame. And that's what you would look for like a perfect short or a perfect long if it was vice versa, if we were doing that at the low. But you had a nice, and I'll be honest, I missed this, right? So this occurred probably, is at 100, hour 100 UTC. So that's about 8 p.m. on Monday night, basically 8 p.m. Eastern for me. I don't know what I was doing at the time, but I just, you really would have had to be around for that kind of move. But yeah, look at the wick above, close back below. If you were around and if you were looking for that short, stop loss above the high, and you had a slew of targets, right? So, but yeah, so it's kind of like how we, got there essentially. And then for me, this is just really no more than just, normal price action for the week, a little bit of, coming back down for some inefficiencies. We had some high time frame averages to fill in. So it's a mean reversion. If you're looking at things in the sense of, mean reversion plays, when you see like 21 EMAs and, like I said, the 200-day, the 50-day, these are all essentially those high time frame averages that you can, look to over time. So anyway, so we're down to these levels. while we still have this region down below, like I said, we could very well still get a push to the upside before coming down to that, later on, maybe this quarter. It all kind of begins with this is losing these levels here. Obviously, we got to be mindful of coming down, sweeping that low. But for now, we've got a pretty decent reaction from the level we're at, right? So this is one thing you really want to see. So we had this daily level of support just below the weekly naked point of control. So now all the weekly targets have been cleared. In my opinion, I think we have a good recipe to kind of shoot back up here. Let's see here. Right? And like I said, if you look at it, even just on the really small time frame, right, when you start to look for some confirmation, essentially, you came down, cleared out these levels here, right? You got what, right below 93K, which not that that's a huge, well-rounded number like, 95 or 90, but, you drop below 93K, which for anybody that was getting long today or earlier, they were probably entering around this 94.5, stop loss maybe below 94 and 93. It was enough to kind of get everybody out right there. And so far, zooming in, right? Try not to get the charts too busy here for you folks. But you can see we got the bounce, back test of the VWAP, come back, and now we're claiming the weekly, now it's point of control. It's no longer naked, but you're reclaiming some ground here, right? So for me, I'm just looking to see if we reclaim the weekly pivot, which once again, that's the average of last week. That'd be two really nice levels to see reclaimed. And I would imagine we make our way, back up to the upside, right? So, targeting at least probably back to this 104 area, potentially making new all-time highs in the coming, probably it may take a few days at this point, right? We get these really big pullbacks similar to this, right? You had these pullbacks here. This was on the 26th, I guess let's just say 31st. It took about 8 days or 6 days. So about a week to kind of get back up to those levels. This may be something along that same time frame, right? Maybe a week or two. But with Bitcoin, as long as we are holding these levels and getting that push up, now we want to see, some movement out of the altcoins, right? So in theory, as long as we're holding this 90, really 92, I think we're still in good shape. It's pretty much just range bound across the board. You got to be aware 86,000 is a very probable area we could see this quarter, but can't get too bearish at support, at least, locally, right? So for me, I see this as a decent reaction. Got a nice little bounce from this region so far. We're reclaiming some key levels. Ideally, we want to see 96K reclaimed, and then I'd look back pretty much up to 104. All right, so ETH had a similar move, and personally, once again, I didn't take a short. I was still honestly targeting a little bit higher. I was really, really thinking that, with Bitcoin pushing up so much that ETH would at least push up to that 3,800, but we did not get it, right? So, but we do have on ETH here potentially is a harmonic pattern that we put in a potential low here today too. So this, when I look at ETH, I kind of look at ETH and Bitcoin and try to find some areas that, between either the two of them or the two of them together, even, try to find some confluence with, if I'm anticipating for ETH to kind of see a bounce, or if Bitcoin, obviously you can kind of anticipate the whole market will kind of get a recover or a pullback, right? And once again, hindsight at this point, looking back on ETH, just a couple, what was it, yesterday, I guess, same deal, right into the gold pocket. This is derived once again from this high to that low, kind of slowly. You always joke, right? You take the stairs up and the elevator down. Pushed up into that gold pocket, same exact moment Bitcoin did, while Bitcoin had that range rotation at the same time. You had that sweep of the high on Monday. Like it was kind of all things kind of perfectly lined up, obviously at the moment looking back, right? So, knowing that we had those key levels, for Bitcoin, once again, same thing here with ETH. So unlike Bitcoin, ETH has now come down and tagged that quarterly average, right? So ETH, every single asset, I mean, we can take this to the stock market even. All these averages, the price, tend to be met really, really well. And it's kind of wild when you see, the reactions on some of them, right? Like, we started off this month and ETH is trading here when we had a high time frame average of price. So this was a mean reversion at the end of the day. And you see how quickly they tend to reverse there, right? So like I said, for me, I was targeting a little higher. I mean, 3.5%, not even, I guess. Yeah, 3.5%. I was anticipating to hit that 3,800. We got the pullback here. So I wasn't a long, actually. I didn't take a short up here. I was in a long. I took profits on Bitcoin and on XRP longs. I did not take one on ETH, unfortunately. And looking back, this would have been a TP area. I guess I don't want to say I got greedy, but I was just holding out for this one here. So basically round tripped back to my entry, and I actually added to the long here, which I don't really do often. I would have cut this a little earlier, but I just decided to, like I said, I already took profits on Bitcoin and on ETH. I'm sorry, XRP. I was contemplating, kind of cutting this at a break even, but we pretty much came back down to break even. And then, like I said, I just kind of decided to add to it around this right at the quarterly pivot, basically, right? So maybe a little lower even, but either way, anticipating another push up. It might take a few days here, but these are the times, where I guess we'll see how it all unfolds, right? So we do have a couple things down below, and there's multitude of things below us if we start losing support, and that just is what it is. We'll have to adjust as times come in. Roy says, "Is Crusader short?" I think he shorted right here at the low, so I think we're in a good shape for a move back up. Oh man, somebody says their stop loss was almost hit. Okay. Nice. So you live to fight another day, I see. Still in, yep. All right, perfect. Say the value of money when mentioning level. I'm listening, but not really in a position to see the screen. Okay, I'll try to do that. I know a lot of people kind of listen to these as like a podcast almost, so they're driving and things like that. Let's see if we got anybody over here on TikTok. Patty Pan says XAU. Maybe we'll take a look at that. All right. Yeah, so ETH, similar situation, came down, hit a high time frame level. And when you're looking at Bitcoin and ETH at the same time, right? For me, I'm at the moment, at least, this is a good enough reaction so far to anticipate that may be, where we kind of see a reversal here, right? So we've come down, hit some big levels. But for ETH, we really want to see that quarterly pivot, that average price held. We've also rotated when you look at the previous week range here, right? So similar to Bitcoin. Let's see, get out of that. So this is, still basically targeting right back up and to my additional 3% level. So not to say price action would have to stop here. It's just, kind of identifying. And this is something you can't marry at the moment. This could not even play out at all. We could very well just nuke from here. I just try to identify some of these ahead of time so that if we do come back into these areas, it's like, all right, you know what, got to be aware of this potential pattern. This is bearish, by the way, right? Once we get to these regions, whether or not it's going to be here, or you push up a little bit more, that is actually a pretty bearish reversal pattern. But on the way, it's bullish to get there. So just something I'll be aware of. But it's like trading I always say it's like trading a Head and Shoulders when your final shoulder isn't completed, right? You can't really go off of it till it's completed. So can't really pay too much attention to this unless we got up to this completion zone, and then from there, kind of modify, adjust as we go. But for the moment, hold this region here, looking for ETH to kind of get that bounce. And like I said, when looking at last week's range as well, perfect little range rotation there. Geez. And then for the person or anybody that's listening, that price on Ethereum is 32.53, right? That's the level we want to hold. And if you look at how the price action reacted here, so same thing. This on the hourly chart, basically just wick down, close back above. So far, holding it as support. So we really want to hold 32.53 for any more upside at the moment, and vice versa. That's pretty much the little line in the sand here, right? So flip that, and probably going to see more downside here. But so far, we've ran the range for last week, rotated to the downside. So get back into the range here at 33.05, which is our low. Look to rotate it back to the upside. At that point, I would imagine that harmonic does come to play, and we probably take it back up to 38. Mishka Chow, how are you, my friend? Ben's chair. Roy says slash. Don't slash the smash button, slash the like button, I guess. Roy says smash the likes, peeps. You think we won't go lower? The thing is obviously we can go lower. I'm trying to identify some areas and some reasoning why, we may have seen a little bit of the worst here, right? So, like I said, you can't get too bearish at support, but as we all know, we can always go lower. But for me, I'm seeing some signs here that, like I said, we got some decent reactions here. Only thing I don't love about moves like this, at least very short term, like for today into tomorrow, is that we're almost to the daily close. Okay, so now today's low is going to be set here. We're getting into the end of the week, right? So it's like, when I look for these sweeps, which you see time and time again. For myself, I just said, right, I added to my long position on ETH. So, stop loss is going to have to be down here below these lows to some degree. Tomorrow, when we start a new day, if we're still kind of trading around these lows, I have to acknowledge it's likely we do one of these sweeps, right? Come down, sweep the low, stop out everybody like me who's going to enter today. So for me, I'd like to see some more gas in the tank here sooner than later. But yeah, at the moment, I think that we've got, come down to some pretty key levels and we've gotten a nice bounce. So, could just be a lower high and we roll back over. But for now, these are some big areas to look to. For ETH, I want to see us get back into that range. So 3,300, start getting back in there and probably push it back up. The Bitcoin dominance is something I did want to kind of touch on really quick. And I got about 15 minutes left here. I'll run through a few altcoins if anybody wants to drop something. You buying any? It's really fun. I've actually spent a lot of time in the last few, couple days here going through some AI agents, and I actually am going to probably start putting out some content on those and some setups in the group. I'm going to section out a couple of different areas, so I'll have a little low cap, a little high risk spot. I mean, they're definitely like degen plays. But yeah, I am looking for some here. I've seen like probably the main ones, I guess anybody's probably looking to, even, AI Rocket, Vader, there's some other ones, Sequoia, Virtuals, of course. But yeah, I'll be putting up some things on those here soon. Dominance, though, is one thing I wanted to point out, right? So we came down to a pretty high level here. Not high level, but a high time frame average, down here about 56. And while looking at this in a different manner, right? Because, let me just go ahead and do that really quickly. I'll take this off. Come on. So, earlier this week, we had this, or maybe not this week, I'm sorry. In November, we topped out at about 60, almost 62, had our pullback. And, many were looking at this as you should, right? As we had a high, a low, potential lower high. And that, tends to start a little downtrend, right? Which this would be good for the altcoins. Generally speaking, when Bitcoin's dominance is going up, it's not amazing for alts. We don't see those, great gains. Like, you see, we'll get the natural, like, all tides rise with Bitcoin type of thing where the altcoins will increase in value, but it'll, 10, 20%, which is great. But I know everybody's looking for those, 50%, 100%, stuff like that, 2-3x's. And the times when we get that is right here, right? When Bitcoin really gets those drops in dominance. I mean, this is where we saw the like 7x out of H-bar. This is when XRP 5x, in that 1 month time frame. Not that, you should anticipate that all the time, but it's just when dominance really gets pullbacks, that's when the market just hits the gas, man, on the altcoins. So we could see more of that. We could get that downtrend to complete or continue. For me, I would say like really losing this 56, 0.75 would be indicative of that. Until then, I don't think we have too much, more downside on dominance here. I think that actually we might come up and fulfill these areas here. So these are levels that I've been mapping out personally for the last like year and a half, and we front ran them, which it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm not like saying that, we have to hit, this 60, whatever that is to the nuts basically. And I would say that, effectively you could consider that we came up to those levels, mind you, targeting these from like 2023 Q4. And we were probably trading around these areas here, right? So, we've definitely met that region pretty well. But the fact we front ran it and just the way that we're setting up right now, I just think that there's potential. And once again, it just really is that. It's just potential to kind of come back up and actually take the highs and just maneuver just like you would see any other asset, right? We come back up to these levels and then get a decent reversal. So, and I think that, this box area is where we see like the true blue, and I don't want to say like the altcoin season, because I think that we go through many altcoin seasons. I would argue that we probably had a little altcoin season right here, which was only about a couple weeks, but I think that when we see, I guess, a 6-month type of altcoin season, like several weeks and several months, even, like it would be here. If I just from the current levels, right? Unless we come down and lose this now, the 56.84 area, I think that we still push up, and then potential here for a harmonic butterfly. It's like almost one of the most perfect ones, which once again, it's just potential. I can't go off of this until we reach those levels, but I build the confluence up here because not only would this be, trend-based gold pocket, we've got a couple of high time frame volume price targets, and then as well, if we see this is a bearish pattern once again, right? So bullish on the way up. Granted, we don't want this chart to be bullish, the Bitcoin dominance, because that's where the altcoins are not doing well. If this chart is going up, altcoins are generally not doing amazing. But when this one reverses, that's where things get fun. And that is for me, 62, basically right at 62% into like the 63. And then, like I said, the reversal from here would probably be pretty gnarly, right? So that's what I'd be looking for there. I saw Mishka Chow says, smash the like button. Smash and slash. Bart, man, come on. Come on, man. Can't be late. Does anyone know anything about pi? What does it do? PI. I do not. Agents, secret agents. Crusader, you're gonna have to give me a class today on some of the AI agents, bro. Crusader is the man. All right. Speaking of Crusader, I got a date with him in 8 minutes. Let's finish this up. All right. Somebody had something on here. XRP and XLM. We'll take a quick look at least XRP. We'll take a look at XLM too, because I know that I can't wait to see the AI coin analysis. Yeah. I've been holding off because I wasn't, I'm not a fan of getting too wrapped up in some of the like hypey things. Granted, I know that like there's money to be made there, but it's like you got to be really careful on how you approach them, right? So, but I do think that market is you won't catch me really going through like Solana meme coins very much, and if any, and I guess these AI ones are borderline the same. But what I do like about the AI stuff so far is like I do see that as like the NFTs of this time around, where the meme coins were just the meme coins, right? Like that's the Doge and the Shibas. There was just a ton of them. Where NFTs, not that I really got into NFTs personally either back in the day, and I do think that these AI agents and stuff are pretty much just that, like something that could very well end up like NFTs as far as the market goes. Granted, that NFT market brought a lot of profits. You just had to be, in and out. And I say in and out, you just had to be willing to, take that risk, I guess. So I think that there is some opportunity there. I'll definitely be noting it as high risk, basically everything can go to zero type stuff, but, small caps and all that stuff. I mean, there's definitely opportunities there to, while you're waiting on your large caps to really take off or to fulfill some price targets. I mean, they can definitely fill our time, I suppose. All right, XRP, let's take a quick peek. I haven't really changed this chart. Somebody, I think, in the group just asked if this was still valid. I would say yes, and more so just on the targeting. Like I said, this is a pretty ugly setup at the moment with how long it's taking. But I do still say pretty valid at this point, right? So only thing about this is, we got to be aware. So once again, if I'm looking to buy XRP, it's not the time, in my opinion, and this could just rocket away from here. And I guess I'd miss it. So, don't take that I try not to say things where it's like people can come back or want to come back. And no matter what, somebody somewhere is going to say something, I guess. But regardless, the areas that I would have marked out for a fresh entry, let's just put it that way, would be 180 all the way down to 112. All right. And potentially even back to the 50-cent marks. But that's probably, that's like Armageddon prices at the moment. But definitely think, 180 is on the cards. We got a lot of things stacked up literally at that exact amount. It's also right below the lows. So even if same deal, right, we see some higher prices first, I think that over, the next coming weeks and months, we at least see that. And then if we just dropped from here, it's a good 20% discount. So that's what I'd be looking for out of XRP. But yeah, I still target this. I still have a long that I took profit at the original time we hit 241, which I took like 50-60%, I think, of it out. And I'm trying to let the rest ride. Otherwise it's break even basically at $2, 201, I think is where I took it. And yeah, so I'm going to let the rest ride, try to get a run up to these levels here. And then we'll see, just kind of have to reevaluate, right? If we get there. Otherwise I'll be looking for, the reaction, or if we start breaking lower, I'll be looking down to that 180 mark. But yeah, I think XRP is, coiling up here. I mean, if you were to look at this in a sense of like bull flag or a descending channel, right? Let's actually look at it like that. Reason I say that, don't look at that one. Oof, scare everybody. Let's see. Let's just throw a little easy peasy one here. So this is something that probably most are looking at, if I had to guess, in a sense of like a trend, which once again, not that it's bad, because you can see here, you got that 180 coming down at the bottom. So definitely needs to get going for me. Really, I'd like to see this 256 flipped for any more upside, right, for XRP. Otherwise, yeah, I mean, we run the risk of kind of running down to the bottom of this channel, and I'd say that more so for the confluence of these high time frame averages here at 180. But otherwise, flipping that, I think we can complete that butterfly, right? And then from there, that, like I said, that's a bearish pattern once completed. Can't go off of it until then. But I just try to pre-identify these so that I'm not FOMOing into these levels, anticipating a fall down, right? Yeah, but that's what kind of pretty much simple, right? It's easy stuff. Need to clear 256 on XRP for any more upside. 28 or 180 is really the next major support I'd look for. And, depending on how the market really is at the time, it's not that has to be any kind of a bottom. That's just, if I was looking to buy some fresh XRP today, I would wait for 180. And that's just me, right? Do obviously what you want to do. XRP probably wouldn't be my first choice of things to go into at these levels anyways. But I know that is, for people holding it, right? You want to know how the price action may run and why. And that's kind of what I'm hitting at. I want to point out real quick, WIF was probably, when I'm looking at those harmonics, a lot of times, like I said, sometimes they don't play out. Sometimes they don't complete in the fashion that it is. But once they complete, you can start working off of it. And this is a really great example of one. WIF had this nasty shark. All right. So once again, if you were, or whatever, like if I was looking at this back when the price action was here, when price gets to these levels up here, it allows you to kind of, or at least for myself, right, I'm trying not to get too bullish at those levels, right? Because this is like back at the highs, all this case, and this may come into play. And it's really when you start getting rejections and stuff like that along the way. And this has a bunch of really low targets, right? So for this one specifically, it was the 0.5, which we came down to pretty aggressively. All right. And then mind you, while this has occurred on WIF, Bitcoin has made nothing but all-time more highs, right? This was, November 14th. So this was like 6 days after the Bitcoin rally kind of started from the election. And you can see the power of these patterns and the targets and whatever. So this was a really good one. And honestly, still waiting for lower. And realistically, even though, like I said, if I was looking at DCA, I guess this is a great way to put out the idea behind, like, if I'm looking for lower prices, you might have to wait for them. Also, they might not come. So there's that. But, when I'm looking at WIF and I'm like, all right, if I'm going to DCA in, I'm going to look for, when we're trading at these levels, mind you, I'm going to look for that 0.5 and the 0.886. These are my two major targets. But realistically, out of this pattern, it's this one down here. And if I was looking at DCA aggressively into something, and this is a meme coin, by the way, so this is not like I'm throwing life savings into this by any means, but if we came down to 62 cents on WIF, that's probably where I'd load a pretty decent little size into there. Otherwise, I know I'd like to say it's Bart. Somebody in the group has got a really nice short. They ended up taking it right in this realm. And I mean, patient as can be. They've been holding it through all this stuff here. It actually still hasn't hit that next target here yet, but I'm sure it will. It looks pretty close. And short term, you might get these bounces up. We got some high time frame levels here, but overall, for me, for WIF, I think that 150 all the way down to 62 cents, and that sounds like a stupid drop. But that's where I'd load a bag for the next, pretty decent leg up for anybody that's looking at, and really whiff was one that, I'd like to get at $1. So I'm almost even good with $1. And then I just have to be okay with sitting underwater a bit. And like I said, I'm not putting life savings into this, but that is one that, kind of been just patiently waiting. And then I just want to show that as like an example of, what we could see if dominance, fulfills that harmonic pattern and stuff like that. They're just really good. And full props to the harmonic trader, by the way. Let's just give him a follow on Twitter, YouTube. He's got a Discord. The things he created is just absolutely incredible. All right, I do have to switch over to with my boy Crusader here in a second. Somebody asked, sorry, I didn't get to go through too many more altcoins. Somebody asked about XLM and SUI. All right, let's just take a look real quick at, I don't even think I've updated XLM in a bit, but let's see what the last thing was. Let's take a really quick look, and then I'll jump on with Crusader. XXXLM. Gee, it's been a long time since I've updated this. Nothing but that. Yeah, I'll have to come back and update this. I mean, this was just pretty much the range break and then monster move pretty much with XRP. Yeah, I'll probably update this and throw it in the group later today. I feel like that's not the only chart I have on there, though. Okay, yeah, I'll have to update that one. Let's take a look at SUI really quick. All right, so SUI is in, one of the few that is like managed to get in the price discovery pretty early this time around, right? So I think we got into it in October, September really. Came back tested this quarterly level here, and then I just had two areas right here that I'd marked out. This is probably the 1618 expansion on trend based, and then just on normal fibs. But these were the two next targets I was looking for. So 526 was obviously hit pretty well. This is a weekly time frame, so kind of zooming in here. You got some high, got a monthly pivot down here. Not too concerned with it, honestly, but yeah, it's really going to depend on how Bitcoin and everything reacts here. But I would say, if we continue up, right, we got a really nice little uptrend here. As you can see, obviously, you got lows, highs, higher lows, higher highs, so on and so forth. You could throw a trend channel on there, what have you. As long as we're not coming down and losing these lows here, I guess I'd more so go this route. I would imagine we get that push up to at least that 636. Now, for me, entering SUI, that's about a 40% move. I wouldn't enter here, and that's just the hard truth about, some of these things with investing, right? Is like, yes, you could buy high and sell higher type of deal. But for me, I really, truly only look for a monster red day. So while we've come up and we've hit a major target, we're getting a pullback. Let's just see what like a gold pocket area is, pretty much where it bounced off of. Honestly, for me, I would imagine we probably make that run to like 636 and then probably get a sizable reaction from there. And then from here, I'd look to, once again, see how Bitcoin's doing. Maybe Bitcoin and ETH push up to those, next highs. SUI, the thing about Bitcoin and ETH right now is that if we do push up, like for ETH, for that potential pattern I had marked out from 3,200 to 3,800, pretty much back to where we were like yesterday, but it's probably going to be a slowish grind, maybe 2 weeks till we get there. And with that being said, if ETH sees a move like that, and then if Bitcoin kind of tracks back up, you'll see the alts get a pretty substantial move up. And so 40% push up for SUI is really nothing. Uptrend is not broken yet. Really, the warning sign for that is coming and losing basically $4. Then I'd probably look lower. But for now, I got to say that this still looks pretty strong, uptrend intact, back test the gold pocket right here. Pretty simple, just trend at the moment. So 636 would be the next level I'd look to on SUI as far as any upside. And then for downside, I'd look for, actually Crusader had just put up a huge update for SUI. So he's got a bunch of levels marked out. I'm actually going to update mine maybe today too. So maybe we can talk about that. He and I on our stream that we'll do today. And actually, I got to run and join him. Can look at some big alts like Link and AVAX. Yeah, generally I do look at more so the larger caps. By the way, I was just talking. I was actually just about to add in some of the smaller ones because I know a lot of people are interested in that. Back in the day, I used to be low cap poly. Avalanche is, to me, on a really big scale here, has just been doing the damn thing, right? So we had macro 382 and macro gold pocket are the big targets for me. 382 was met earlier this year. Back test this huge range. We actually came back down to this point of control right here and kind of see a nice little retest or retracement, I'd say, up to this quarterly level here. And then locally, I'm wondering if we come down actually towards about this 31 before we continue up. But for me, I'm targeting either way, whether it's this area here, you get a little bit more of a retracement back down to the lows, right? 76 to 98 are my next major targets, one of which really being that 98. Once again, macro gold pocket from the overall all-time high. Doesn't necessarily mean that's where it'll completely top out or anything like that, but that's a big target that I've been looking at for quite a while. Chainlink. I know Chainlink and XRP just kind of joined up forces, and pretty much Chainlink just kind of similar to that SUI chart, right? You got a really nice uptrend intact. We had a huge range here, similar to the XRP range that just broke out, right? You had this huge, was that 100%, 200% rally to the upside, got the retracement, higher low right here, ran it up to the 1-to-1. We had an untapped monthly from all the way back over here. And for me, as long as we're holding essentially, this $18 mark here, we've got 37 and 35 up here next on Chainlink. And once again, that's just like a short, maybe a couple weeks, months type of outlook. That's 88%, not the sexiest. I know people want to see the big, 4-year cycle tops and all that, but I'm just taking a level by level as we go here. I used to be the big prediction guy and doesn't really work out that well. So so really holding these levels here. 37, 35, 37 is going to be those areas. And I got to go because I'm going to be late for our little stream here. But I hope you all enjoyed this stream today. Good amount of viewers tuned in. If you would all like, if anybody would like to join the Discord server where I put all my analysis, my trade setups, try to answer as many questions as possible. Like I said, I'm adding in a little section for like things like AI agents and stuff like that, a little bit more of a low cap area. But generally, I'm more so the higher cap, a lot of Bitcoin and ETH updates, high time frame, daily updates. Like it's a little bit of everything in there. Link is in my bio. There's a 7-day free trial. And got the academy, all good stuff in there. But until the next time, everybody, I hope you all have a great day, remainder of your afternoon, and I'll see you then. Cheers.